You know, you said that they really crave strong relationships. It might be with a parent or perhaps with a sibling or whatever.
Or a guru or whatever, yes.
Will they be quite controlling? Will they try and be quite controlling with that person?
Well, that's why the parent doesn't like them.
Yeah.
Because they're over-demanding, which is a kind of control, isn't it?
I'm sort of thinking like those little girls who are quite bossy, aren't they? Bossy little girls.
Yes, they can be.
Sort of manipulative.
Manipulative, perhaps more than bossy.
Be fickle as well.
Yes, fickle and manipulative. Bossy is not exactly the right word, I don't think. But it's a sort of bossiness, isn't it? Demanding is better. Are you thinking of somebody, as you said?
No, I don't. No. Not really. I mean, no, not particularly. But my daughter's a bit like that. I don't know. But, you know, and she's got a very strong relationship, obviously, with her twin. And that for her, and yeah, so it was
okay, there may be something completely else.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. But it's just, you know, but also that picture of that blue-eyed girl who's really pretty.
Yeah.
Lots of little girls are quite bossy, aren't they? Quite sort of.
Yeah.
They like to organise other people. It's not really bossy. They like to organise everybody else around them and sort of have a bit of a control of.
Well, that's not. This is again not so obviously Pulsatilla.
No.
They're more likely to be bossed around by others than to be the bossy one.
Right.
So when they find something to cling to, like a strong belief or a partner, with their belief, they're not going to throw themselves into it. How are they going to? I mean, are they're going to? I don't know how they would cling to a thing, a belief, rather than to a person.
Think about it.
Keep
saying, because you're talking on your feet.
Okay.
Just keep running.
So they're stubborn. No.
No.
But then they're changeable. I mean.
This is the key to it, isn't it? They're very changeable.
Yeah.
And they're very sort of flung back, open and changeable.
Yeah.
The world's changing.
So
their emotions are changing.
So they cling to that.
So they need some kind of stability. Their first stability will come from parents, mother or father. And it may then come from an older sibling, mayn't it? They'll be clinging to them, wanting reassurance whenever they feel that. And then they put that onto Jesus, say. And then that's fine. Or and then it's the Christian belief system. It holds them. And when they walk through the valley of the shadow of death, they are not frightened because they got this to hold on to.
Okay.
And it's good.
Okay.
Not a rejection. It's like a rejection thing, or not really.
What's this got to do with rejection? Explain.
Well, if they want to cling on to somebody, but the person isn't responsive to that.
All right, then they would be rejected.
Yeah.
That would be terrible for them because then they would feel alone again.
Yeah.
All
or
alone
they just
in the
cling
world
on
again.
to a vegetarian or religion or something, and then feel good.
That makes them feel much more secure.
Yeah.
Security is the key issue. And when they you're saying about rejection, if they feel rejected, then they will go straight into all alone in the world.
Oh.
It's like a chasm opens up in front of them because they're emotionally very changeable. Suddenly it's,
Sure.
whoa, there's no one there at all. So it's hugely magnified.
Oh.
And it's, and then that mood will change.
I would imagine they didn't have any loyalty, is that right? Whereas in natural there's loyalty. But if they're changeable, they
need loyalty enormously.
show to them.
It's a bit like having an anchor, do you see?
Yeah,
Imagine
they feel loyalty.
Yes.
I mean, they want loyalty, but would they be able to give it back?
Ah, I got you. No, they'll want it desperately.
Yeah.
And other people may feel that they're not that constant. True.
Yeah.
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened if in your little clump of Pulsatilla flowers you dug them all up and left one there.
Would die.
That's really mean.
Why would you do that? Yeah. Consider it. It's worse than kissing hands.
It's a lower level of...
It's because you're a man, isn't it?
Just because you're a man. How dare you? Poor little flowers.
I'm going to Switzerland.
You write it all down and bring back the notes, aren't you? And you won't even have done it.
I had a boyfriend who needed Pulsatilla. He,
Sorry, when you're saying this,
yes.
is it true that he got Pulsatilla and he was better?
Yes.
Fantastic, keep talking.
Okay.
You'll learn now.
Yes. The relationship didn't last very long, so it was rather clingy. But anyway,
Is that a British understatement?
yes.
Yes.
He texted me in the day and he said, I've got really bad vomiting and diarrhoea. And I said, what do you want me to bring home, because I was at work? And he said, you, in the text. That was it, just you. So I got home.
Eject!
I know, really.
Oh no, you're feeling sympathetic. It's just like...
He's probably read the book somewhere.
Yeah,
That's what
positive, right?
that's
You
what it
sort of
seems to
text
say.
him as well. Okay, so I got home. It was about 6 o'clock. It's certainly evening. The window was wide open, and he was sitting in bed with the duvets up to his chin, and he had been running to the loo all the time, and he had a bowl and a fever, and so the window was wide open, lots of wind coming in, and I immediately, my first response was shut the window, because it was ridiculous to me that was open. So I gave him Pulsatilla, and I only had 30, and he straight away went and just vomited and then was fine. So,
Wow.
And then you
checked him.
And what did he attribute
out the door.
What did he attribute his nausea to?
He said that he'd eaten something at his mum's, and it was probably the fish. I think it was the fish or something else.
Yeah, because Pulsatilla has a particular susceptibility to becoming nauseous after eating rich food, especially rich dairy. I'm sure there's a milk connection.
It probably was.
But anyway, fats and creams and things like that, and cheddar cheeses is just not good. And the combination of cream and fruit, party food, trifles, kids and parties. A lot of them get sick, and even if they aren't constitutional Pulsatilla, it's often Pulsatilla that helps them in the acute.
Yes.
It's that combo. There's books are really good on Pulsatilla. You get such a good picture out of them.
Would they have an aversion to fat?
Yeah.
They would, so they wouldn't
Well,
like...
they ought to, but quite often, when it's party time, all that lovely sweet whipped
So they would be able to eat it?
They'll eat it and they'll be sick with it. So I'm just look, leading symptoms out of this book which you have. Okay. Affectionate, mild, timid, emotional, tearful. Alternating with laughter. Tearful, alternating with laughter. Emotionally, an April day. Next symptom that's given is forsaken feeling. Now, thinking of hub and spokes, we suggested that the changeability is what is in the centre. So how can we relate changeability and that emotional nature to forsaken feeling? Forsaken feeling is a spoke. They feel forsaken when?
They've been rejected.
Because they've been clinging, so there's that.
Exactly.
Those opposites.
And why are they clinging?
Because they feel...
Because they're changeable. What does changeable mean? It means they need something to cling to, otherwise they're forever insecure. Their security comes, because they're changeable, from clinging to somebody. But if that somebody rejects them, then they feel
Forsaken.
absolutely forsaken, all alone in the world. You're making sense of it? Okay. Next one is yielding. Submissive, can't refuse anything, wants to please, sympathetic, but gives to receive. Can you relate that as a spoke to the central idea of...
Sorry, can you just
Yes, I will. Yielding, submissive, can't refuse anything, wants to please, sympathetic, but gives to receive.
Which bit are we doing? The gives to receive? The
Well, I think-
relating to changeability.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
Yeah, so
So
they,
It's
the
changeability.
chameleon, they
They're
always
always
adapting.
Yes,
to the
always
environment.
pleasing,
Yeah.
in order to get
the
support.
the
security.
support and security
Yeah.
that they need And if they don't get it, they'll feel forsaken. Yeah, so they do everything not to be rejected, so they can have
the
the
giving is
security.
a spoke,
So giving is to receive something.
and that's a spoke, is it?
Yes. Yeah, if you're going to use my centre, it's a spoke. And you can use another centre and do it another way if you wish. Please play with the idea. It's the whole idea. Okay, now he goes on. May have rigid, moralistic, dogmatic ideas in a deeper stage. We just said one.
Structure.
Exactly. They're so changeable that they need a pole to hold on to, or an anchor. The weather's always changing, the ship's always moving its position. You need an anchor. And the anchor needs to hold solid, dogmatic, rigid, moralistic, solid. And moralistic ties into the sexually open, which is not mentioned here, but yeah, goes there. If you're moralistic, it's because you have fears about sex, so you have strong morals. And sex means,
Vulnerability.
it means, yes, it can mean, but it actually means security. You sexually bond with somebody and then they're your anchor. But if you're always changing, then it's difficult for you to anchor and bond, so you develop strong morality, very strong. You must only have one partner. You can't experiment. Dangerous. Too changeable. No sex before marriage. Good Lord.
But the sexual obsession, it's like a sexual issues around sex
sex.
rather than
Yeah.
So
And
but
you
would
have-
you get the polarity that they're quite, sexually sort of liberated and free and have lots of partners?
Well, they could be. Yeah. Wouldn't work for them, but they could be because they want to please and because they're open and because they're changeable. It won't suit them because what they really want is a rock to anchor onto.
Right.
But they can choose all sorts of people until they find the rock. That is exactly a polarity. It's very true.
So
That's one way of going, and the other way of going is to become a fascist moralist.
If they had a one-night stand and then the bloke got a taxi and left and went home,
Not good.
devastating, wouldn't it?
Devastating. I don't think that's ever.
Because they've given of themselves in order
Yeah.
to please, and
Yes. Shocking.
now they're gone.
Yeah. And it wouldn't take them to self-disgust. It would take them to
Forsaken.
forsaken. Fastidious. And also irresolute. Fastidious is a form of monomania, isn't it? You put everything the way it needs to be, tidy it all up, and then it gives you a kind of security because everything is in its place. And it's... Okay. It's a spoke. Fear of narrow places. Fear in a crowd, fear when alone, fear of darkness, fear of insanity is what's mentioned here. Fear when alone is obvious. What about fear in a narrow place?
Well, you can't dance about with them.
Oh, it's a funny one, isn't it? You know, Nature Mule, the remedy of yesterday, has got fear of narrow places even more marked than Pulsatilla. So here's an interesting one. Why has Nature Mule got fear of narrow places, do you think?
Perhaps it sort of prevents that openness,
Yeah.
which is automatic.
Yeah. And that's a very good way of understanding it. A narrow place has got nobody else in it, it's you alone, it's solo.
Oh, you
It's
mean
also
open as in
restricted,
wide open?
yes.
So actually restricting you from being open,
Yes,
but not through your own choice.
yes. Well, they've become very narrow, haven't they? In a certain way. Do you
Who
think?
have Nat Muir?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it mirrors too strongly the place that they're in.
Exactly.
That they feel closed off, so they wouldn't want more closing off.
Yeah, beautifully said.
But also,
That's
if you're in a
right.
narrow place and the flood does come, if you let the flood out, if you're stuck in somewhere narrow and the waters escape, then you're going to drown much quicker, aren't you?
Oh, that's the thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or that you're backed into a corner and forced to
Yes,
overflow with your emotions.
yes.
Because there's no one else around to give to and help. That's what Nat Muir does, isn't it? They kind
Close
of
to.
Yeah.
move away from their own pain to go and give to others. If there's no one else there, then they're kind of faced with their own emotion, maybe.
So, we've got a sort of feeling sense of why Nature Mule and narrow places goes together. What about Pulsatilla and narrow places then?
There's no room to be changeable. If you're in a narrow place, you can't change around, can you? You're sort of stuck there. You can't be changeable.
Yeah.
Narrow place is a bit like being dogmatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is one of their. I think that's what it is. It's mirroring at a slightly different level. Narrow place, the psychological need to fix on and to anchor into one thing. It becomes narrow because you've only got one thing there. So it's a similar. It looks a bit like nature mirrors narrow place, but it's actually the opposite way of getting there.
Less options.
Less options.
Yeah.
There's no one that can be in that narrow place with you.
That's
Between
terrible.
two.
That would be terrible for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to work it the other way and say that the narrow place is like being fixed dogmatically on one thing because it gives you absolute certainty. There's no room for anything else in there.
Yeah.
What I'd love to do is show you this video because it's a great picture of a Pulsatilla child.